Conservation Training Center's live stream. I'm your host, Brett Billings, and I'll be with you for about the next half hour. You know, spring is a time when we start to see some old friends. And I'm not just talking about people, I'm talking about our feathered friends. At this time of year, many migratory birds are passing through, giving us glimpses of species we may not see very often, or maybe it's just species that we haven't seen since last year. Just this morning, I get a note from my wife on my phone that the hummingbirds are back. The hummingbirds are back. We just put our feeders out, and so she's already seeing some old friends. Whether it's watching your backyard birds or close encounters of the feathery kind during a bike ride or a hiking trip, there is no time like spring to see the diversity of birds that nature has to offer. Now, if you have questions about springtime birding, maybe want to know what types of equipment you might need or what's a good bird field guide to use, just put those questions in the chat box and we will get to those shortly. Now, joining us today to give us some insights on spring birding is Joanna Lutmerding, a biologist in the branch of bird conservation with the Fish and Wildlife Service's Migratory Bird Program. Joanna, thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, let's start with Joanna. What it is that is going on in bird world about this time of the year during spring migration? What exactly is going on with birds this time of the year?
Hi, Brett. It's great to be here. I apologize, I was on mute, but I want to say this is my favorite time of year, and boy, is it really busy out there. There's so much going on. So birds who overwintered here are heading north. We've seen a lot of them exit. We still have a few here in the east, white-throated sparrows hanging around. Local birds, the ones who breed here, they are actually, some of them already wrapping up their nesting. And then we have a lot of birds moving in. So a lot of birds that spent their winter in the tropics are starting to show back up. And these are birds that would have hatched at least last year, if not longer ago. So they've already made this journey once. They've survived that journey and overwintering, and now they are surviving a return journey. And so it's just amazing to see all of this activity going on. And also more about the resident birds. I mean, I just love getting to see those local breeders, really work so hard building their nests early in the spring, and then get to see them foraging around feeding their young birds while all of our migrants are also foraging alongside of them. Just really great time of year.
So there's all these birds out here, and we really only kind of see this in the spring. There's certainly a fall migration, but sometimes that's some different species going in different areas. So we've got the spring migration. Where are the places that we can go to see this diversity of birds?
Well, I always love to start at home. So you don't have to go far to find birds. That's one of the amazing things about them, is that they are literally everywhere. So you can even just look out your window and enjoy birds in your yard. So start there, but then you probably don't have to travel far to find a local park, some woodlands, some shrubby areas. Don't overlook areas that even have maybe been abandoned in your neighborhood or community and shrubs have grown up. Those are magnets for migrating birds. And forests, wonderful for catching a diversity. And if all else fails, find some water. So you're always going to find birds showing up in bird baths or little ponds, creeks, rivers, wetlands, you name it. You're always going to find a diversity of birds, especially during migration in these wetter areas.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about shorebirds and wet areas. I believe we have some video to show that shows maybe some of the particular species that you might actually be able to see here. One of my favorites, wood ducks, and a very common bird in the east, but if you're not near water, you may not be seeing them, right?
Yeah, that's true. This time of year, they're nesting, and I just saw a pair not not too long ago, so they're always really great to start to catch some really ducklings in the pond with their parents. And here in the east, we're starting to see some shorebirds trickle in, like you see here. And shorebirds, or peeps, as some people call them, they're wonderful to get to watch because they're very viewable. So if you can find a good spot, they're in these open areas where you can spend a lot of time studying them. I admittedly, I have a hard time identifying a lot of peeps, and so I really enjoy going along with other people to study them who know a lot more than me about their identification. But lots of color, lots of different sizes, and different lengths of bills to pay attention to with them. So you could easily spend a few hours just scanning through shorebirds.
All right, and we've got a cute little guy here. I believe this is a spotted sandpiper, and then somebody with a much longer bill, and bill size and shape is often a big characteristic. I think this is a curlew here out in the grassland. And then these guys are a greater yellow legs, the bigger one, and a lesser yellow legs, the smaller one. Two different species, but very similar, but easier to tell them apart when you've got them right next to each other like that. So, I've heard serious birders talk about spring warblers, seeing lots of warblers in the spring. Where does one go to see these warblers that the big birders are always so interested in?
Warblers are always going to be a favorite for lots of reasons. There's a lot of diversity, and not only in species, number of species you can see, but also in their appearance. They come in just about every color and wonderful, amazing patterns, and also those warbling songs that are actually distinctive to the species. Very beautiful to hear, can be tough to learn, but then once you get it, you'll never forget it. So woodlands are always going to be a great place for warblers. They're insect-eating birds, and so young caterpillars that are in oak groves are popular for them. And one thing about finding them in woodlands, though, is that they're up in the canopy, they're in the tops of the trees, and so it can be kind of tough on your neck to watch them all the time. So a nice trick, though, is that they like sunny forest edges where not only can you see the sides of these trees, but also there's often shrubby habitat that the birds will come down to forage, like this yellow warbler that we're looking at right now. That's a great bird to find on these forest edges and these smaller trees. And they're very bright, so easy to see. And there's also the common yellowthroat, as you see here. They really like the forest edges and also wetter areas that are even more open and can make them even more visible. And that common yellowthroat, it's one of my favorites. They are common, they're widespread, but they've got this beautiful black mask. They're kind of like their own little superhero of a bird. And then they like to say witchity, witchity, witchity when they sing. So always great to have them pop up in spring, and we're just having them really show up in good numbers here in the east.
Now, as you mentioned, a lot of these warblers are up in the canopy. They're small most of the time, and they are fast moving, so they can be kind of difficult to see, much less check out those diagnostic characteristics like colors and so forth. What are some hints you have about helping to identify warblers?
Well, when I was getting started, I struggled to get to see them again because they were in the canopy. And so a great way is to bird by ear. And what that means is that you go out and you have to pay attention, get pretty quiet and listen for these bird songs. And we have this wonderful technology available to us now that I wish I had had many years ago when I was learning. So the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, they have this wonderful free app called Merlin. And you can download this onto your phone, and you can also let it know where you are. And you can walk around and hit record, and it will actually record the birdsong for you. It will identify the individual birds as it's recording. And it will also, if it knows your location, limit the possibilities so that you don't get some extremely rare, never before seen bird that is unlikely to occur there. So that way it's pretty accurate. And what's nice is that it also will show you the birds that you are hearing. So it'll highlight when the bird is singing that species, it'll give you a picture of it, and then you can look at that picture and then say, hey, well, that bird is bright orange, it's Baltimore Oriole. I know now to look for a flash of orange with that song. Or it's a Parula, and I can look for this blue-gray bird with this yellow chest. So just wonderful. It'll rapidly increase your ability to learn song and identify the birds that go along with those songs. So something I use it myself when I'm out in the yard, or if I'm out on a jog even, I can have it running on my phone and be like, oh, there was a scarlet tanager, or there was a black and white warbler and maybe I missed it, but this app actually caught it for me.
Okay, well, that is a super hit, Birding by Ear. I'm going to have to check that out. Still, most people that are bird watching are hoping to see the bird. And of course, most people that spend any time birding are going to have some binoculars. For those of us maybe that don't have a good set of binoculars yet, it's a little overwhelming. There's really big pairs of binoculars that are super strong, and there's little pairs of binoculars that you can put in your pocket. I know most people use the binoculars, in their phone. They put it on their phone and take a picture, and then they start trying to go in there and get a better look at it on their phone. But for somebody who's looking to maybe get their first set of birding binoculars, do you have some resources or advice for them?
Yes, well, it's always good again to start as simple as possible. And often what we're thinking about when we're wanting to see birds is how well can I see them? I really want to be able to see them from a distance and be able to get a good view. And so the magnification is often what is on people's minds. If the bird's far away, they still want a good view. And so there are some wonderful resources online that really take a deep dive into the different levels of magnification you can find with binoculars and what the trade-offs are. So sometimes more magnification might mean less light or a smaller field of view, whereas less magnification might give you a wider field of view. And so if you're just starting out, that wider field of view helping you locate a bird as it's foraging through a shrub or something might be really important to you. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. There are really great binoculars out there that don't cost a lot of money. And sometimes it's just feeling like you have access to a set of binoculars. So for example, we take our daughters birding and we just have these small ones for them. We let them decorate them with some puff paint. And this is enough for them to be able to spot a bird. And then whereas, my husband and I, we've invested in more powerful binoculars. And so this helps us find the birds, spot them, and then our daughters are able to use, the more easily to carry, less expensive pairs of binoculars to get their eyes on the bird. And just one tip I do want to share if you're beginning birding, finding the bird in general is difficult. And so I always tell people, if you see movement, keep your eye on that bird. Don't take your eyes off of it, and actually bring the binoculars to your face without moving. So don't look down and then try to find the bird again. Just keep your eyes on it, and you're really going to increase your chances of actually getting a really good look at that bird. And you won't want to miss it, especially if it's something like a warbler or tanager or grosbeak moving through. You're really going to want to get a look at those flashy colors.
Got it. Now, can you show us both of those pairs of binoculars together again so we can get a good look at the sizes and shapes on those two pairs of binoculars? Okay, so yeah, there's definitely a size difference.
Yes, so this one's perfect for a 7-year-old. And this one's great for me, a bigger person, and also more expensive, and I can be more careful than my kids, trying not to drop these. or knock them around. So
So we hear of another term called birding accessibility, and I know that's something that you're very interested in. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means, birding accessibility?
well, it does, I know, mean different things to different people. But for me, as someone who loves birds, I spend my professional life trying to conserve birds, and I'm a parent with two young children who I want to enjoy the outdoors, is that it's really important to me that everyone can connect and find their place connecting with birds in whatever form that is, whether it's from home, whether it's out traveling, and really any form or fashion. And so eBird is again another great resource that the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has produced. You've probably heard of it, but if you haven't, check it out. One great thing about this, among many, is that it tracks birding hotspots. So these are going to be places in your community where people show up to look at birds, and often we'll find a lot of different species and maybe several individuals of those species. And so these hotspots can help you learn where to go if you want to go on your own and just have a peaceful, quiet walk in the woods or on a trail at these hotspots, or if you want to connect with others in your community. Birding is a wonderful way to build relationships, partnerships. There's really nothing that you can't enjoy when you're out looking at birds. And so eBird's a great way for on your own or with others.
That is a cool piece of technology there. Great little app. Uh, I also wanted to ask you a little bit about for those of us like my wife who enjoy bird feeding, that sometimes brings birds out of the forest and closer to the house. How can you be a responsible bird feeder and maybe look out for the safety of birds that are going to be near your house, near doors, windows, pets, things like that?
That's a really great question. So, we love our birds, and especially in our country, we love to feed them. We spend millions of dollars every year feeding our birds, and it can be really helpful to them to survive harsh conditions, or if they're stopping over during migration, to help them refuel for the next night of flying. And that love can extend to making sure that your yard is safe for them. So not only draw them in, but protect them once they're there. Just like anybody wants, anywhere they want to eat, they want to feel safe where they are, right? So it's the same with birds. And some things that can create hazards for birds in our yards are windows. So glass is actually really difficult for birds to see. So this picture here just shows how reflective glass can be. So birds, they will see the sky, and they can see plants, or they might see through the window to plants in your home and not realize there's a barrier there. And so if you're ever sitting at home and you hear a thud, that is likely a bird hitting your window. Thankfully, there are a lot of easy solutions to make glass more visible. So one is you can treat the glass with a series of small stickers, like these dots that were just shown there. And if they're spaced about 2 to 4 inches apart, that has been shown to be very effective with reducing those thuds. I've done this at my own home. This is actually a window in my own house that we were hearing thuds, and I've treated it, and I've never heard a thud again, along with any of the other windows that seem to be problem windows. And so this treatment, it's very effective. It can take a little bit of time, but it's worth it. You can also even just apply tempera paint to windows, or hang strings like a blind, or have a screen over the window, or even just some soap film, just anything that can make that window more visible to the birds is going to significantly reduce those collisions. And so that way you can still look out the window, enjoy those bird feeders, and know that you're also keeping those birds safe. And just some other things to think about too is, what might be creeping around your feeders in your yard. If you have pets, like dogs and cats, we love our animals, and we want to keep them safe as well. And keeping them inside, especially cats, It's healthier for cats. It also will help the birds because cats are very skilled predators, very intelligent animals, and they can, sneak up on feeders with birds completely unaware. So just be aware of, the surroundings. If there is a cat, try to keep it away from the feeder so that those birds can arrive healthy, get healthier at your feeder, and then take off healthy as well.
Well, those are definitely some things for us home bird feeders to think about. We're running a little bit low on time, Joanna. Do you have any last thoughts about how folks can maybe up their birding game a little bit?
Well, there are so many things, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but I guess the number one thing is to have as much fun as possible because you want to be able to enjoy it, so you want to keep doing it. Maybe you could challenge yourself somehow, or your family or your friends. Can you find birds species that make up the entire rainbow? So pretty much anywhere you could probably do that across the year. And then also, if you're wanting to know when to get out to see birds right now, there's another great tool from Cornell called Birdcast. So they actually take weather radar and they can filter out birds, and they can make predictions to know when there are going to be sometimes hundreds of millions of birds that will be migrating that night, because most of these birds migrate at night, which is completely fascinating, and that could take up a whole other hour just talking about that. But so like this map shows here, these are predictions of the number of birds are going to move that night across the US. And then they also provide real-time tracking. So if you're up late and you're checking this site, it will actually can show you how many millions of birds are actually migrating through different areas in that moment. And today is May 4th. Early May, we're hitting peak migration. So if you sign up for Birdcast alerts, you're going to get your inbox filled up, letting you know that several areas across the US tonight are going to have a lot of birds moving over. So tomorrow morning and over the weekend, there should be some really great birding to be had wherever you are.
Wow, fantastic news. And that's another opportunity for folks to get their binoculars out and get them spruced up, make sure that they're all cleaned up and ready to go. Joanna, thank you so much for your time and your expertise and your great love of birding. We hope to have you on the show again in the near future.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
All right, well, good birding to you. And for more on birding resources, make sure to tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. as we talk with Alfredo Bagazzo. He's the producer of the online Avian Report, chock full of birding news. And that's going to be on our Live from the Eagle's Nest show. That'll be coming up this next Thursday at 1 p.m. and right here on the NCTC live stream. Lastly, we want to bring you up to date on some hot news from here at the National Conservation Training Center. Our resident eagle pair is busy feeding their month-old chick, and we're following the nesting eagle family through the season on our Live from the Eagle's Nest broadcast every other Thursday at 1 p.m. You can catch them right here on the NCTC live stream, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live feeds. And during those broadcasts, you'll have a chance to ask our guests and host Randy Robinson questions about our 2-decade-old eagle nest and current news from the current nesting eagles. That's Live from the Eagle's Nest next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we hope to see you then. Thanks for joining us.